Okay. Okay. Once again, welcome everyone to the very first InstructLab community meeting for 2025. Before we get started with the agenda, let's go through a few housekeeping items. Many of you have probably heard this before, but since it's the new year and we might have new people joining us, I'm just going to go through them again. All our meetings are governed by the InstructLab Community Code of Conduct, so feel free to check that out in the meeting notes if you want more details. All the meetings are recorded, as I mentioned, and will be posted in the InstructLab YouTube channel after the meeting in a day or two. If you prefer not to be on camera, that's fine. Please feel free to join off camera with your cameras off, or you can also dial in via phone. So there's options for you to do that if you want. And if you're in the Google Meet interface, please use the raise hand function to ask questions. And but if you're, for example, on the phone, you can just interrupt at appropriate moments. We'll make sure to get your questions and comments. And you can also use the chat function in Google Meet to put some comments or questions, and we'll make sure that those are followed up in the meeting. And finally, we have a list for attendees of the meeting. If you prefer, you can add your names to that. So we like to know who are attending our meetings, especially if you're joining recently or you have something to add. So we're happy to see many people participating. So feel free to add your names there and your GitHub IDs so we know who you are. Cool. I think we have a good, nice start to the year with a few cool agenda items. I think the UI project update, Maria, Missy and Maria, are you here? Let's see, are they? I don't see their names here in the attendee list. Is anyone else on the team here? Or did they did they put their update in the wrong meeting agenda? Maybe this was for tomorrow's UI meeting.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay, we'll shelf this for now, and since the relevant people are not here, and come back to it if they join us at some point. Courtney, would you like to talk about code coverage reporting?
Yeah. So I wanted to bring this up in the community meeting because I want everyone to kind of give feedback. I don't want to necessarily add this feature if people have issues with it. But basically, I created this idea for code coverage reporting, right? Right now, I don't think, we should enforce any kind of, minimum code coverage or anything like that. This is more like a CI check where it basically says, hey, you kind of missed some unit tests for this whole file or something like that, right? Just to kind of give people an idea of maybe, there are some things that you didn't test, right? So more of a piece of information that's helpful, but not anything that's going to block a pull request. And I do encourage people to kind of leave some comments on the PR if you have any concerns. I don't think, an overall code coverage percentage necessarily reflects, how robust our code is, because someone did raise a concern hey, reporting the code coverage percentage, that's not necessarily, reflective of any of that kind of stuff. Because at the end of the day, right, if you write your unit test wrong, you could have 100% code coverage, but they're not written correctly. But the point is basically saying hey, you didn't write unit tests or you didn't write much unit tests. And so I just kind of want general feedback on that. I know I have to rebase the pull requests and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, let me know. And I do know that I think it was BJ Hargrave did raise a concern about notifications, oh, we're going to get bombarded with notifications because there's a bot commenting. And so please let me know if you are concerned about notifications. I did propose some solutions to mitigate the number of notifications, things like that. But if notifications is a big concern, I definitely don't want to overwhelm anyone else on this call. If you're reviewing PRs, I don't want it to become a nuisance for you. So please let me know if that is a concern or if you have any other concerns, because I want to make sure that if I am adding this, right, we all agree to it, we find it useful, we find it beneficial, and it doesn't like kind of negatively impact us.
Thanks, Courtney. Very well put. Anybody have any comments right now, or?
I'll just throw in, I looked it over, I reviewed it. Generally, I'm in favor of this. I think a lot of like mature sort of open source projects use code coverage metrics. I think the BJ had some valid concerns. I feel like Courtney's addressed those. So we'll request his review on the PR, see if we can get more feedback there. But yeah, if anyone else has feedback, I'd say please comment on the dev talk. But otherwise, Courtney, you have 2 approvals, and I would probably say I think there were some updates I asked for, but like once the PR is up to date, I'll probably approve as well. And then I think we would be, unless there's anyone that was strongly opposed, I'd say by this time next week, I think we can go ahead and merge it and start any relevant work on that. And this would apply not just to the core repo, but also the libraries as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the idea would be
Awesome.
just to kind of start it in like one repo, kind of let it, go for a little bit, see how if there's any issues, right, we can roll it back instead of doing it all at once. And if, there's repos where we think that it may not be super beneficial, we can always just like, say, hey, we're just not going to do it in this repo. So I'm just kind of leaving it open to, whatever people feel is beneficial or not.
That sounds good. Probably the core repo would be the place to start. I think there's already some code cov actually stuff in there that that you talked about. I know. I've seen it somewhere.
So just for context and everyone else on the call, is we do currently capture code coverage for pull requests and the overall code base, but it's kind of hidden in one of the CI checks. So you'd have to look through the logging to actually see. I believe it's the unit tests CI check. It has the code coverage reporting. So we actually capture it and we have the files necessary. So this is a matter of just kind of making that information more visible by just creating a pull request comment with a bot. So
I'll add one more piece of context to that, which is because I know one of the concerns BJ had was like who will be looking at this, like who will be responsible for this, and I can say without getting into too much detail that there will be people that will be working on this project that will be looking at those things as their primary function. So if there's question as to will anyone actually be looking at this, then I will go ahead and say that the answer is yes. So if that's something folks are worried about, then rest assured it will be. But of course, there's a benefit to anyone who's contributing to InstructLab because of course we want the code coverage metrics to go up and not down. So anyway, thanks for doing this, Courtney. This is awesome work.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, I did have another CI enhancement suggestion, but I will bring it up next week. I'm just kind of just tossing around some ideas, but the idea is basically trying to high level is, we have a lot of repos within the InstructLab org, right? And they're all kind of related to one another. Some of them are dependent on one another. And the idea is there's so many repos that you have to keep track of, and it can be difficult sometimes when you create a pull request for one repo and then it gets merged and released, and then, oh my gosh, your change broke another repo. So my idea is to basically identify where, hey, like you made this change, this could break this other repo. And I have like a whole plan out, and I'll just create like a dev docs when I'm kind of done with it. And I have some general approaches for like this automation. My goal though is to make sure that this is not like a CI check that takes forever, right? I want it to kind of be quick and painless as possible. So yeah, that'll be like for next week, so that hopefully we can ensure, like, not that we really have like necessarily a lot of bug issues, but kind of reduce it as we expand our code bases and increase the number of repos over time.
Yeah, there is a PR that's open right now that adds something. I think.
It's basically an automated version of that.
Oh, okay, cool.
So basically, that's a very manual process, and I think it's a great pull request to basically link, different things. But this is more of an informational thing where it's like, hey, did you know that this could affect this?
Oh, okay.
And to be clear, I do not want it to be a blocking check, because sometimes, some people point out, sometimes you do want to break certain logic, like you're deprecating logic, right? And you're aware that, hey, this change could break the code, right? So right now I just kind of want it to be informational, let you know, like, hey, did you know that this could break this or that? And then if you're okay with it, right, you can merge it, or if not, you can push back and say, hey, you need to fix this.
Nice. Sounds good. We'll talk more about that next week.
Yep. Thanks, Nathan and Courtney. Would this be something? Would this be some kind of data or stats that can be tracked to show progress? And would people be interested?
Yeah, I
in
can
that?
definitely capture telemetry. I mean, I can also I can also create like another dev doc or something, update it afterwards, kind of like as an enhancement, right? Like, let's capture metrics. Just if you had any in mind, please let me know, like in the pull request, like, hey, can you capture this metric or that metric, right? And I can also look into some things that we might want to capture. And we can definitely look at, for example, capturing overall code coverage, right? And just see like, how that changes. But again, code coverage, it kind of gives an overall, picture of how healthy the code is, but it doesn't necessarily tell you the fine details.
Right. Yeah. I'll take a look and discuss with you offline.
Yep, sure.
Yeah. Thanks. Cool. All right. I think we have Missy and Maria joining us. Welcome, and we were hoping to hear from you about the UI updates.
Yeah, sorry about that. Had a
No worries.
meeting that ran late. Yeah, so there's just a couple items. So first is the chat with a model. So that we have an issue open and shared that during a community call right before shutdown. And so this design is using the PF6 chatbot extension. So it'll look, a little cleaner than what we currently have. And it also has the ability to compare two models side by side. So, and that's, that screen. So you could enter in a single question and then be able to review what the two models would give you back. So this chat with a model is supposed to be kind of the initial step an SME would do before they submit a contribution to verify what knowledge or skill is needed to improve that model. And yes, that is it. And from there, they can click and start to customize their model endpoints, which I might have to share my screen for that. Sorry.
No worries. Let me get you sharing. It's somewhere.
Yeah. And while we wait for that, so we have a couple questions. So I basically pulled in what we currently have, and there's only like 3 fields right now for that view.
You should be able to share your screen now. Can you try, please?
What? There we go. So it's the URL, the model name, the API key. Sorry, my columns are a little messed up right now. I'm trying to fix that. But we had questions on if there are any other details that the SME would need. And so one thought is it important to show like when it was last updated, since we can edit this? Maybe having a date would help the user select the right model endpoint, or at least be able to determine when it was updated last. There's also, I guess, upcoming is the ability to display health checks for the endpoint. And so our question is that something we plan to do? And is this where we also want to display those health checks?
So is this issue the place for people to provide feedback and answer the questions, or how would you like to get? Oh, sorry, JJ, please go ahead.
If I remember correctly, the custom model endpoint originally was designed because we were doing the training on the laptops, and we were like, "Hey, I did training on the laptops, but I'm doing everything through the UI. How do I test this in the same place?" So if I remember correctly, that's why Brent created it, and it's just kind of a legacy off of that. I don't think I'm surprised if anyone still uses it, because there's no real. I mean, people use the public UI for the stuff that we host already. So I wouldn't probably put too much into it, but I would direct that to Anil and Brent, and then come back.
Okay, so I just need to verify if this is still needed moving forward. Okay. All right, well, we'll do that. We had one other screen, which was just the ability to create a new one, but we will hold off on that until we determine that's a requirement.
And
All
for
right.
people who want to hear more or have more questions, there's the UI meeting on Wednesdays. So, and are you starting up again tomorrow or next
Yeah.
week? Tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's tomorrow. Yep.
Okay. Thanks for that.
And then the other question I had was about the developer certificate of origin. And so I just was hoping to get some feedback on, is this something that we're going to require an SME to do through the UI, or is this just going to be in the Git repositories and it would be just for an admin type of user?
If someone is submitting a contribution, I guess somewhere that's GitHub based or Git based, I think including DCO in that contribution is probably the best way to do it. Otherwise, the person is going to have to go into whatever platform it's being submitted on and like do some manual signing anyway. So including that would be probably ideal, I think.
Okay, so is that something, so for the RUI flow, this is supposed to be someone who not necessarily has Git, might not be handling that themselves. So would that just be something part of like the attribution part of the flow?
It needs to be in the actual commit message
Okay,
of the workflow. So yeah. Like there's an actual like line that has to be there for legal reasons. So we can't add it anywhere else according to the rules that we've been. I mean, if we can change the lawyer side, sure, let's do it. Love it. But on our side, it has to be inside the commit message.
Yes, Nathan.
I wanted to ask because I know there's an issue filed about this, Missy, and we talked
Yeah.
a little bit on there but this seems like this is more related to like taxonomy contributions via the UI versus development for the core package. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. So do you mind then, because the issue you opened is for the core package repo. So I think that
Okay.
may not be the best place for it. So are you fine if I go ahead and just close that out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great. Thank
fine.
you. No, that's
think
fine.
you
No
can-
worries. That's
You
why
can
I was
open
kind of
it on
confused.
the
Yeah.
taxonomy repo. So instruct-lab/taxonomy, if that's where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Or
And that
all
was
I
it.
can do is I can just transfer the issue over there. if
Yep.
That's the easiest path. Okay, cool.
That would be
I will
easier.
do that then. Awesome. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I assumed it was something like that because I was kind of confused, but that makes a ton of sense. So I'll go ahead and do that. All right, awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right,
All right.
those were the topics we had. Thank you.
Thanks, Missy. Any questions or comments for the UI topics? Okay, if not, please remember to join the UI meeting on Wednesdays, which is tomorrow, weekly. And we already covered the code coverage topic. So now we come to events. New year, and lots of events are starting to, be scheduled and happening. And so these are the events, and I see a few has been added. Thank you very much. That has talks related to InstructLab. Zurich, we have a Red Hat Summit Connect Zurich. I think it's the last in the series actually. And we're going to actually have a talk with about Dockling with Michelle Dolphy from IBM. So I'm very excited to learn more about Dockling myself at this event from the expert. For CentOS Connect, so CentOS FOSDEM is like one of the major events, FOSD events in Europe, for those of you who might not be familiar with it. It's in Brussels, Belgium every year usually the first weekend of February. And there's usually a few fringe events connected to it. CentOS Connect is one of them, and Config Management Camp is another one. And we have InstructLab content in all three events. So CentOS Connect, I think the schedule is not out yet, but we will have a talk related to InstructLab using bootable containers. And in Brussels, in FOSDEM, there's a track, AI track, AI dev room, sorry, they call it dev rooms, not tracks here. Low-level AI engineering hacking, and there are actually two related talks. One is this one, leveraging InstructLab and the B agent framework by Martin and Paul, and Cedric and I will talk about synthetic data in language models. So that's that. JJ, would you want to add something about these AI dev room or?
Yeah, I'm the MC, so that's always fun.
Yep.
I'll be wearing my InstructLab shirt there.
All
And if you are there, please don't hesitate to come say hello. And then the AI room is going to be fast this year. We got the largest room on Saturday. I'm pretty sure it's Saturday. Double check that.
Actually, I think it's Sunday.
Sunday. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad I said that out loud. Sunday.
Right.
But yes. So please, the room is the largest room, but it is very hard to get in and get out. So just FYI, if you are planning on seeing some of these talks, show up early and expect to be stuck in the room for quite a while. It's one of those rooms. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, JJ. All right, then after FOSDEM, some of us make our way to Ghent for Config Management Camp. And there's JJ will have a talk there as well, I believe, on InstructLab. And I will do a small workshop on the third day, the fringe day of the fringe event at Config Management Camp. So then we have a developer week in San Francisco, February 11th to 13th. May I know who put this there, and would you like to say something about this?
Yeah, hey guys. So Cedric here, and gosh, I'm really excited about the AI room at FOSDEM. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. JJ, you're going to do awesome. It's going to be high energy, fast, and it's going to be a great time. So Developer Week is a keynote that we have in San Francisco. It's, I think, the biggest conference for developers in the US specifically. So we'll talk about InstructLab there. We've got a keynote at Confu, which is a developer conference in Montreal later that month. And then Open Data Science Conference in Boston. So I submitted something for Dockling, and I'll tie in InstructLab, but call to action if anyone wants to join for that session. It's right before Red Hat Summit, and would love any help there because I'm familiar with Dockling. I can use it and show it off, but I'm not a data scientist. So if anyone wants to come and join, I think that would be awesome and bring that perspective. And one more CTA. If anyone has any content around synthetic data generation or bootable containers with RHEL AI in terms of documents or presentations, I would love to see what you're working on and not have to reinvent the wheel for some of the stuff that we're going to be showing off with InstructLab. So just feel free to reach out to me or leave something in the document if you already might have some material around SDG or bootable containers. But yes, that's some of the events. Very excited. It's going to be a fast, busy spring.
Thanks so much, Cedric. Gonna be a lot of fun working with you on some of the stuff as well. Dockling. Okay. Anything else for the first community meeting for 2025? I'm sure we have a lot more, to work on this year, but we're off to a good start. Yes, JJ.
Always got to say something in this meeting, don't I? I still don't have the GGUF yet built for the first community model build. I tried, and Shippy broke yo. It feels very hacky, and I think Charlie, we talked about this briefly. So if I'm to use Cedric's term CTA, sorry Cedric, I had to. I need help. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem to do what I want.
So I've gotten a model that I think works. One of the main issues is that InstructLab doesn't work currently with Granite 3 models because our version of Llama CPP is too low, which I have a PR that's about to merge in like a few hours that bumps the Llama CPP version to 0.3.2, which supports Granite 3 models if it passes CI. Very true, Nathan. Thanks for keeping me honest. But once that merges, I converted one with the Llama CPP convert script and served it on that branch, and it seems to perform pretty well. So you might have just been hitting issues that like the serving is probably broken to in every way possible. So once that merges, and I think I don't want to make any promises, but we we might be cutting a release after that, a Z-Stream, to allow people to serve and chat with Granite 3 models. And then we can kind of like hit the ground running with converting GGUFs, throwing them at Llama CPP and seeing what works. Because I think it's just a matter of like the exact right arguments to pass to the Llama CPP script to get it like what type of quantization you want, all that fun stuff. So I'm planning on doing that today after this merges, so I can reach out to you and we can work on that.
Perfect. And loop Laura in too.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, JJ and Charlie. Anything else? All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining the meeting. We have the UI meeting tomorrow and core meeting on Thursdays. So please remember to join those as well. And yeah, see you later on in the week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.
Have a
Yeah,
great
thanks,
year.
everyone. Please have a great year.